Okay, quick introduction to reflections. If you go to your Google Classroom right here, you should see there's 9 pages that are scanned in. These are the translation pages and the reflection pages of the stapled packet that I gave the people in class last week. So if you have that stapled packet, that's all these. You don't even need these pages. If you lost it, didn't get it, or VIP quarantined, then you need to at least look at these. If you can, print them out and have them available. But today we're working on 6, 7, 8, and 9. Specifically 7. Page 7 is going to have all your rules that we're going to talk about today. And this may look crazy right now, but it'll make sense later on. So for your Khan Academy that you're going to do for your assignments, you probably need to look at page 7 along with listen to this video. Okay, so there that is. You should already have your Translate. There's your 3 Khan Academy Translate assignments along with your Translate video in case you needed it. All right, so when we did your Desmos, this was the rigid motion golf one where we had to get the purple L on top of the other image. So the purple was the pre-image and this was the image. A couple of things people did on this was reflect. So we know what translate is. That moves. That L is always going to look like an L. But see how this doesn't look like an L. So I've got to do either rotate or reflect to make this L, flip and look like that. So some people chose to reflect. So if I reflect, it gives you this line. This is called the line of reflection. All right, it tells me, all right, where do you want your mirror to be? Well, your mirror needs to be halfway. So if you look into a mirror and you're a foot away, your image in the mirror is also a foot away. So here's the idea. If I want this to be my line of reflection, again, I can move it wherever I want to move it. This coordinate, this top left corner of the L is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 away. 1, 2, 3, 5. Sorry, 6 away. 6 boxes away from the line of reflection. So when I reflect it, that same coordinate is going to be 6 away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this top left corner of the L reflected is going to be right there, 6 away. So each coordinate is going to be the equal distance away from the line of reflection. So when I flip this, it should be right there, and it is. Now again, mine looks like kind of half a T now, and I need to make it look like a backwards L. So what some people did is another reflection. Right? So if I cut that in half there, again, 1 away, 1 box away here, and when I flip it across that, it's also going to be 1 box away. Some people chose to reflect it horizontally. Okay, and then some people rotate it. So if I do this, all right, this is introduction to what we're about to do. Let's say this is the x-axis. X-axis goes left and right? So this point is 1 away from that line, and when I reflect it, it's also going to be 1 away. So if I do that, it looks like that. All right, then I've got to reflect it again. Well, this is the idea of reflecting across the y-axis. Y-axis goes up and down, and it's the same idea. So that's what some people did, just 3 reflections. Some people did some translations and reflections. I think a few did some rotations. But as far as talking about what we're doing today, this is reflections. All right, so there's 4 rules. Again, page 7, if you go to your Google Classroom, page 7 is going to give you the rules, and I'm going to explain the rules, what these 4 rules mean. But have page 7 available, especially when you do your Khan Academy. So here it is. You have an image. This is the pre-image. Right now we got a quadrilateral, and here are your coordinates. That's your pre-image. Point A is 410, B 86, C is 6, -4, and D is 1, 2. we're going to do 4 reflections of this pre-image. Okay, so the first one is going to be, we're going to reflect across the x-axis. Okay, x-axis goes left and right. So each coordinate, let's take these 4 specific coordinates, are going to be equal distance away from the line of reflection. So if you take D, D is 2 units, 2 boxes away from the line of reflection. 2 up from the line of reflection. So my reflection is going to be 2 down in line, 2 down from the line of reflection, which means it should be right there. All right, C, I go from x-axis, I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. That means my reflection is going to be up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 should be right here. All right, same thing with A, which is 10 away from the x coordinate. When I reflect it, it's going to be 10 down from the x coordinate. And B is 6 away from the x-axis. So when I reflect it, it's going to be 6 away the other direction. So if I flip this, it's going to look like that. So again, C or D, the original, there at the pre-image, that's 2 away. So here's your reflected image, right? D prime is 2 away. Same thing happened with C. It was 4 away with the original, right? 4 away going down. And this C prime, the new one, after I reflected, is 4 away. And the same thing happened to A and B. So A prime and B prime, you see where they're in line. B is 6 away from your x-axis, so B prime would be 6 away also. Okay, so what you found out when you did this, if I do the coordinates, if I do the coordinates of my new image, all right, my reflected image, these are my coordinates. And what you see is, all right, if I take A is 410. That is the pre-image coordinate. If I reflect that, now all of a sudden that's 4, negative 10. All right, B originally was 8, 6. Reflect across the x-axis, now it's 8, negative 6. C, the original was 6, negative 4, and I reflected it, and I got 6, 4. And D, the original is 1, 2, and then reflected is 1, negative 2. So hopefully you see a pattern there. The pattern is the rule. So the rule says this. If I'm just reflecting across the x, I'm not changing going left or right. Well, the x-axis goes left and right. All I'm doing is I'm moving up or down. So if I don't move right or left, x is going to stay x. All right, y, on the other hand, this is 410 turned into 4, negative 10. 8, 6 turned into 8, negative 6. So you see where the y did change. So here's kind of your shortcut. Here's your rule. If you reflect across the x-axis, xy, which means 410, 8, 6, 6, 4, all those coordinates of the original turns into x negative y, which is basically this. X stays the same, flip the y. So if we take this, for example, let's say x is 4 and y is 10. When I reflect across the x, now I get x is still 4. Y is, I'm going to flip the y. So y was 10, so now y is negative 10. So that's what the rule is saying. So like, for example, C. C originally was this. X is 6, y is negative 4. Keep the x, change the y. Now that negative 4 turned into positive 4. So that's the rule for flipping across, reflecting across the x-axis. Right, and that's on page 7 of your handout, and it's in Google Classroom. So that's what page 7 is telling you, the rule for reflecting across the x-axis. So the next one, let's reflect this same image, the same pre-image, across the y-axis, across this. So this is going to be my mirror. If I reflect, it's the same idea. So D is 1 away from that line of reflection, the y-axis. So when it's reflected, D prime should be right here. All right, A is here, 4 away from the y-axis. So when it's reflected, it should be 4 away from the y-axis on the other direction. C, which is down here at 6, -4, is 6 away from your y-axis, so it reflects. It should be 6 away here. And then the same thing for B. B is 8 away, and reflected, it should be 8 away over here. So when you reflect that, that's what you get. And the coordinates would be that. So we'll take a look at coordinates. So A originally was 410. Now all of a sudden it turned into -410. B was 86. All of a sudden turned into -86. All right, C, 6 -4 turns into -6 -4. And D was 1, 2 originally in the pre-image. Reflect across the y is -1, -2. So hopefully you see a pattern there as well, that if I reflect across the y, I don't go up and down. Again, y-axis goes up and down. So if I don't go up or down, y stays the same, and I change the x. So here's a simple way to kind of remember your x-axis, y-axis rule. If whatever axis I flip across, that stays the same. So flip across the x, x stays the same, change the y. Reflect across the y, y stays the same, x changes. So again, if we do A is 410, reflect across the y, keep the y, change the x. Okay, so those are your two rules. X-axis rule, I'm going to flip across the x-axis, and then my y-axis rule. These other two, and that's a majority of your Khan Academy questions, but I want to go ahead and talk about these other two rules. So there's your x-axis rule. X stays the same, change the y. Y-axis rule. Y stays the same, change the x. But here's a y equals x reflection and a y equals -x reflection. Now, it's been a while since y'all have graphed lines, so let's talk about this real quick. The y equals x line, right, mx plus b, is going to have a slope of 1 and a y-intercept of 0. So it's going to up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1. It's going to be a line that looks like this, positive x. All right, so watch this. This is a little different. When I flip across it, here's what I get. I flip across that y equals x line. And it's not as simple as flipping across the x-axis or y-axis, because I got a little a diagonal line here. The same rule applies. Whatever A is, whatever the distance A to that line of reflection, has to be the same distance from A prime to that line of reflection. Now, it's a little different because it's a little twisted and turned. But here's the idea. If I find coordinates, this is the shortcut, the rule. 410. I reflect that. Now I get 10, 4. Right. B originally was 8, 6. I reflected across y equals x, and it's 6, 8. You see a pattern. C, 6, -4, reflect across the y equals x line. All of a sudden, it's -4, 6. So hopefully you're seeing the pattern of, I'm just going to flip my x and y. So 1, 2 turns into 2, 1. Okay, so here's your rule with y equals x. xy turns into yx. So what that means is, again, A, let's take A again, it's 410. You're just going to flip that to where now A prime is 10, 4. Okay, so that's a rule. Basically, just you need to remember it. We'll talk about like why it is what it is later, but that is what your rule means. Okay, so we have the x-axis rule, keep the x, change the y. We have the y-axis rule, keep the y, change the x. And now you have your y equals x rule. Just switch the x and the y. The other one, y equals negative x. I'm going to flip across the y equals negative x. So this was your y equals x, right? Slope of 1 crossing at 0, 0. So negative x is going to be that same line just going down. Have a slope of negative 1. So it's the same idea. This is y equals negative x, right? X, or 0 is your y-intercept, slope of negative 1, up 1 to the left 1, and there will be my line. It's the same idea. So whatever the length of C to that line of reflection is going to be the same distance between C prime and that line. Okay, now let me show you the coordinates. So here's the coordinates. A, 410 originally, now is negative 10, negative 4. B, 8, 6, reflected across the y equals negative x. B prime is negative 6, negative 8. C was 6, negative 4, now it's 4, negative 6. And D was 1, 2, and now D prime is negative 2, negative 1. So what's your pattern? Well, the rule says this. XY turns into negative y, negative x. So let's take D this time. All right, XY is 1, 2. So what this rule is saying, I'm going to flip both of them, right? Change positions and change signs. So I'm going to change my x and y. So now that's 2, 1, and then change the signs. That's how I get negative 2, negative 1. And you see the pattern in all those. Okay, so here's your 4 rules that you have. Flip across the x, x stays the same, change the y. Or flip across the y, y stays the same, change the x. And here are your 2 trickier rules of if I reflect across the positive y equals x, flip them. If I flip across the negative y equals negative x, flip them and change sign. So those are your 4 rules that you're going to have to need. And again, they're on this page 7 to show you some Khan Academy questions that you're going to see. All right, so I'm going to assign you two reflection Khan Academy assignments. So I'm going to give you a peek of what they're going to look like. The first thing is reflecting points. So all this is you're going to reflect 1 point. Okay, so I'm going to use my rules if I need it, right? Here's my reflection rule. I got Q prime is the image of that. So this is my pre-image coordinate under a reflection across the X. Remember the X-axis rule. X stays the same, which 3 is going to be 3, and Y changes. So that negative 4 turns into positive 4. Okay, now I actually have a graph. So when I click on that, it gives me a point. I can manipulate that point. Well, reflection across this line L. Well, A is 1, 2, 3, 4 away from that line of reflection. So my reflected image is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 away as well. Okay, those are the 2 kind of questions that you're going to get. Now, 4 questions, you got to get at least 3 out of 4. The next one is reflecting shapes. You're basically doing the same thing, just instead of 1 point, I may have 2 or 3, 4 points. So blue is the original. I'm taking the green, and I can manipulate these. All right, what's the image going to look like after I reflect this? Just take it point by point. All right, so A is 1, 2 away from the line of reflection. So this is going to be A prime 2 away from that line of reflection in the other direction. B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 away from the line of reflection. Let's see, I'm going to have to move this. Okay, so 1, it's got to be in line here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 away in the other direction. Make sure I'm in line. And then I got C. C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. And I go another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away in the other direction. So it's the same image, just twist it a little bit. All right, so you're going to get some of those. All it is taking, instead of 1 point, I'm taking 2 or 3, sometimes 4 points. All right, those are the 2 assignments you're going to have to do for today. If you have any questions, as always, ask me. But that's pretty much what I would be saying in class, and I'll give you the rest of the time to work on these Khan Academies. If you got any questions, let me know.